Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem, and today I'm going to talk about this Saturday's Fox Sports pay-per-view that is a welterweight title unification between Errol the True Spence and Showtime Shawn Porter. Also on this card, you got Mario Barrios, who is facing Batir Akhmedov. I'm not sure about Akhmedov, but Barrios has shown some promise in his rise through the ranks. Josecito Lopez versus John Molina Jr. Get your popcorn ready, because that's a barn burner. And then we got Anthony Durrell versus David Benavidez, which should be a good fight as well. And finally, the main event. So I'm going to go ahead into the main event and talk about how their skills match up, what I think is going to happen in the ring, and then stay tuned for the recap when we talk about what actually happened in the ring versus what we thought was going to happen in the ring. So, going into Porter. Porter's coming into this fight, the WBC welterweight champion, has a very frenetic style, likes to stay in people's chests, sometimes smothers his work, but has been very effective up to this point in his career. His two losses are against Kell Brook and Keith Thurman, two people that you should not be ashamed about losing against, both very solid champs, and at the time that he lost to them, one of the best people in the division. So, coming into this fight, he is on a nice little wave of momentum, beating Danny Garcia and beating Yordenis Ugas in a fight that was a little bit closer than a lot of people may have thought it should have been. But Ugas is one of those underrated, highly capable boxers that on any given night could be one of those top guys. He just hasn't hit that slump yet. Hasn't hit that hill yet. In that fight, Porter showed a little bit more lateral movement than we're used to seeing him, and that may have swayed people negatively on how they saw the fight as well. But he came out with the victory, and now he's getting the man that most people see as the top guy in the division in Errol Spence. So what does Shawn Porter bring to the table? Shawn Porter is a big frame-wise welterweight. He's pretty short at 5'6". But he fought in the amateurs at 165, and you can tell that he has to cut a pretty decent amount of weight to get down to 147. So he's not a small guy. Small guy height-wise, not by frame and strength. And looking at his fights, the only person that was ever able to match him physically in the ring was Kell Brook. Now he's fighting someone similar to that now in Errol Spence. So how does he learn from the mistakes of the Kell Brook fight and bring them into this fight where he can be successful? Keyword is angles. He's got to use his footwork. He's got to stay off center and not let Errol Spence just tee off on him, or just catch him coming in, hold him if he gets into that close range where he gets smothered. If he can move from side to side and also move his torso from right to left as he comes in, and once he gets in, continue that movement and throw shots off of it, he can have some success in this fight. Now the question is, can he do that for 12 rounds? We've seen Shawn Porter kind of fade a little bit in his fights, and that may play a key in this fight. Or that work rate, that tenacity, that physicality might wear on Errol Spence as well. We haven't seen Errol Spence in a super duper physical fight, with the exception of Kell Brook, one of their common opponents. That was a very physical fight that he was involved in against Kell Brook. But I'm going to stick with Shawn Porter. Talking to Rob, he also noticed that Shawn is working on a stiff, meaningful jab that Rob believes he's planning to use to offset Spence's rhythm and try to get him off balance. Something that is very hard to do because Spence has underrated footwork and he's always in position to punch. So if he can utilize this jab successfully, he may be able to create those angles that I just talked about to score some points on Errol Spence. I also saw him working combinations and a lot of uppercuts, which for someone who's a lot taller than him in Errol Spence may be a little bit hard to do if he only comes in straight forward rather than at angles. So now let's go into Errol Spence. Errol Spence is pretty much the guy at welterweight right now. He's the one everyone wants to fight. He's the one that is pretty much seen as the number one guy in the division. He's not the money guy yet. That's still Manny Pacquiao. And that's probably not going to change until after Manny retires. Because if you want to cash out, that's the guy you got to fight. We'll talk about that later on. So Spence, being a southpaw, has a different look than most guys you're going to see. He has a very consistent work rate that has shown in different facets. Against Mikey Garcia, like Shawn Porter did against Ugas, he showed a different look than most people are used to seeing him have, whereas he boxed Mikey Garcia from a distance and did very well. Whereas against someone like Lamont Peterson, he came forward, tried to stay in his chest, and worked lots and lots of combinations. The thing that remained the same was work rate. He still threw a lot of combinations versus Garcia and a lot of combinations versus Lamont Peterson and other people that he's fought. His work rate has always been consistent. Against Kell Brook, work rate always consistent. He was able to wear Kell Brook down over the course of the fight, in a fight that was really a back and forth battle with both guys landing great punches, both guys getting visibly hurt, but Spence was able to come out on top with the win. So, according to mostly everybody, all Errol Spence has to do is be Errol Spence, and he's going to come away with the victory. But what exactly does that mean? One, he has to use his physicality, use that work rate to keep Shawn Porter from smothering him. He has to use his underrated footwork to create his own angles against Porter so that he doesn't get caught in those bull rushes. And if Porter decides to stay on the outside, use that length to keep Porter from scoring effectively when he decides to attack. So he's going to use that long right jab, that long straight left hand, a very quick right hook to just pile up points if he needs to. So both gentlemen have several ways they can win this fight. So how do I think it's going to go? I do believe that the conditioning is going to be the X factor in this fight. It's going to be very hard to outwill Shawn Porter. Keith Thurman found that out the hard way. So did Danny Garcia. So did Kell Brook. Even the guys that beat him still had to fight every second of every round in order to overcome the tenacity of Shawn Porter. And I don't think Errol Spence is going to have a problem with that. So I do see this as being a pretty tight fight that Errol Spence is going to take going into those later rounds. He's probably going to take control in the middle rounds. Shawn's going to come back on at the end of the fight. But it won't be enough, because another thing that I did not mention is that I believe that Errol Spence is a more precise puncher than Shawn Porter. So he will land more effective, judge-friendly scoring blows than Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter, like I said, when he comes in, he'll land a punch or two, but a lot of times it gets smothered by him coming forward. You end up in a clinch. You end up with just bodies colliding. And a lot of times that's not easy to see from a judge's perspective or from a fan's perspective. So with Spence being able to land a little bit more cleanly, a little bit more showy, and with the technique that he has, probably a little bit more force, his punches are going to affect Porter a little bit more than Porter's will affect Spence, thus giving him, I would say, a 7-5, 8-4 type of fight. Some people are expecting Errol Spence to blow him out of the water. I'm not one of those people. There are not many people going for Shawn Porter, but if you are, I want to hear how you think he's going to use his skills to come out with the decision or the stoppage. One thing we could look for is, because of that southpaw to orthodox stance difference, Errol Spence's liver is a little bit closer than it usually is for a orthodox fighter. That means your hook has to be a little bit tighter to land there, but if you can tighten that up, it's there for you. So that's something to look out for. And then on the opposite side of that, Errol Spence's power hand, his left hand, will be headed towards Shawn Porter's liver. So the body work is going to be very important in this fight. And both guys have very concerted, very effective body attacks. So I'm expecting, where in Molina and, what was the other guy's name? John Molina and Josecito Lopez. In that one, you're going to get a lot of leather thrown, and the skill level won't be as high as Spence and Porter. But so this one, you're going to see top level boxing, brawling, and just the sweet science as it is intended. So you're going to see two ends of that spectrum on this card. So like I said, I'm going with Spence. Tight decision. Very entertaining fight. And where does he go from here? He's been saying he wants Manny Pacquiao. Don't blame him. Manny Pacquiao's got a belt. Manny Pacquiao brings the money. What's to lose there? So that's all I got, guys. Let me know what you think. Hit us up in the comment section below. Rob will probably have the initial reaction as soon as the fight is over. And then later on in the week, I'll bring you the recap once we're able to sit down, watch the fight, dissect it, see what happened, compare it to our preview video, and then bring you that recap. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you're aware when our videos are released. Hit us up on social media, Capital Combat on all platforms. And until then, we'll see you in the next video. Fight on.
This is round one and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.